Humans on the cardboard. Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we're looking at an OCG ban list. Just came out early this morning. Really exciting to see. We've kind of been anticipating a new OCG ban list over the last couple weeks. We knew one was coming, and one of the most interesting things with this ban list in particular is just that their format has warped so much since the last ban list. It's insane. I mean, just plain and simple, Power of the Elements is one of the most impactful core sets we've seen in a while. And so because that came out since the last ban list, they just have, like, their format is so different than it was before that last ban list. So everybody was really curious how Konami would approach this ban list and, just to see where they go. But yeah, as you can see with this picture, it's a little bit crazy. Shout out to Yu-Gi-Oh! Organization, by the way. They're so good with the news. I don't shout them out nearly enough, but they absolutely deserve it, and that's my fault. But they're great. But let's get into this thing. Lot of stuff to talk about. Let's just get into the bans here to start. We start with the forbidden section being Totally Awesome, Crystron Halqifibrax, and Vanity's Emptiness. The first one here is Toad. This is the inaugural hit for Splite, technically. Which is not overly surprising, I will say. I went into it saying, even on release, I was like, it seems like the Exceed monster would be the hit. But this is the first ban list since that core set has come out. I'm sure Konami is still worried about financially, like making sure they can sell that set. And the Splite Exceed is still a very, very crucial piece of that engine, of that deck. And so I get it, because Toad is also, like, probably the next thing up. I think Elf is really broken as well, but I think it goes Exceed, then Toad, then Elf. Elf only gets really, really broken when you have a card like Swap to just abuse out the booty hole, and something like Toad. If you don't know, the interactions would be crazy, because not only would the Exceed summon Swap out of the deck to trigger it once to get a send, then you'd link it off for Elf. Elf would reborn it again, get another send. That's already your Toad. And then the other broken thing is that Elf can reborn on the opponent's turn. Toad is not once per turn on either of its effects. So if you negate something by sending itself and then add back water, like a follow-up water, then you're able to just simply use the Splite Elf to reborn the Toad again. So it's double Omni Negates, double add backs, and I mean, that's plain and simple it. Off of any way to make a rank 2, you get double add back, double Omni Negate. Very, very broken. You only need to play a small frog engine in the deck to get there. I get this, I guess. I'm kind of sad because I like Totally Awesome a lot. It can be used in other decks, like Sharks take a hit here because they can't do Bahamut plays. Even decks like Atlantean Mermail make use of the frog engine sometimes, as well as the Bahamut play. I mess around with Marine Cess, and Marine Cess like to do Bahamut into Toad, and that takes away some of their ability to set up Omni Negates. But, it's kind of a shame. Like, Toad's just really cool, and he's gone off and on the ban list, back and forth. And, yeah. But hopefully, maybe down the line, we'll see the Exceed get the ban. And if the Exceed gets the ban, then I think it is much more possible that we could see Toad come off sooner rather than, like, way, way down the line. So yeah, sorry to talk too much about that. Next up, we have Halqifibrax. This one's also super surprising. I guess the big one here is also Splite. This is, like, as far as the really, really popular decks in the OCG, this is also a Splite hit, because they would make Halqifibrax using something like Deep Sea Diva as a 1-card Halq or a 1-card rank 2. But you'd use Halq to summon out, like, Max C or any other hand trap you'd want straight out of the deck. And then once you make the Exceed, once you have a way to make the Exceed, he would summon Swap, and then Swap's effect to bounce any monster is any monster. It's not just itself, it's not just water monsters, it can bounce that hand trap to your hand. So people were literally just searching Max C by making use of Halqifibrax. Even if you don't play Toad, you could still take advantage of the Frog Engine to facilitate rank 2s. Oops, sorry about that. And also get hand traps. Search to your hand, specifically Max C summoned off. Well, so I'm sorry, I put that in order. So, like, how could summon other different tuner hand traps, like Ash and Valor and all that stuff. Maxi specifically, you would want to summon off of the Exceed. And then if you have access to swap, then you swap it back. So it was just weird. It's like a weird thing, but it's cool and it's powerful because you end up with interruptions in your hand, which means you don't lose to board breakers, the Dark Ruler No Mores of the world, and all that stuff. So yeah. How it goes here, obviously this affects a ton of decks. If Hulk got banned in our format, Punk would be a huge residual hit. We see synchro decks. We see so many crazy decks that abuse this. Synchros have been MVP over the last year. So this would be huge if we saw it here, but yeah, Hulk gets hit. And then Vanity's Emptiness. This should have been gone so long ago. You see all these deck lists still play this card, even at 1, because it's just, if you ever get a leg up in the duel, there's like an 80% chance this card just literally ends the duel right then and there. It's Mystic Mine-esque, but like arguably even worse because it it's the same thing as like have something or just lose. And the difference here is that you would be activating this when you already have a setup board mostly, and your opponent, it's not like Mystic Mine where you're using Mystic Mine when you have nothing because you need nothing for Mystic Mine to be impactful. But yeah, this card has been degenerate. It's been needing to go for a long time. I'm glad to see it go, actually. All right, and then we move to the limited section. We start with Eva to 1. I don't know why they haven't... Eva hasn't been banned for them, right? This isn't even coming back to 1. I think it's going from 3 to 1 or something. This is what we had for a little bit, and then they eventually banned it. I don't think Drytron's been too crazy, but maybe they're super worried about something in the future. I don't know. I just don't know exactly what this hits in their metagame. Or if it was at none, I guess coming back to 1 makes more sense. So maybe that's it. I just don't know off the top of my head. Spellbook of Judgment comes off the list here. I've seen multiple people talk about like, no way in hell Judgment comes off. But it is very interesting. That's for sure. I've made videos talking about should Spellbook get support. They're an interesting engine, but they're like very simple. And they only really have one legit playable monster. Being Blue Boy. Like none of their other monsters feel like they do enough. They're just super power crept. But Judgment's crazy. Judgment's absolutely crazy. So I'd be curious to see where Spellbooks end up. Maybe they could get a couple. Maybe they get a little new wave of support. Nothing crazy, but add a little bit of extra utility. Maybe 1 or 2 more monsters that are actually playable. Don't have to be insane, but with Judgment back and everything else they have, they could be looking at something spicy. And then Branded Opening goes to 1. That's interesting as well. Best starter for the Branded deck. Although, again, I'm looking at this and I'm like, Branded was not performing that well. Branded had already seemed like it was getting power crept by Tierlaments. So a better fusion deck was in the format. And now they hit the Branded Opening. I guess I had seen some versions that were Branded plus Tierlaments. So I guess it kind of hits those versions. But it seemed like the Ishizu Fairy version was performing the best version over the last couple weeks. So I don't know, kind of weird. Then we move to semi-limits. Genix Allied Birdman. Okay, he's not Hardwin's Return, but as long as he's not facilitating FTKs, I think he's probably fine. Fluanderies in the Magnificent Map. This is just a small Fluanderies hit. Fluanderies still performs decently well there, so I get it. This is one of their really good consistency cards. Branded Fusion goes to 2. Again, kind of sitting there with Branded Opening. Okay, sure. Branded Opening hurts a little bit more because Branded Opening feels really strong. And same thing with Branded Fusion, but Branded Fusion is no, most of the time you search it. A lot of the time you search it. So I don't know. I guess they lose 3 slots in their deck of power cards that you want to open. So there's that. Keep that in mind. But nothing too crazy here. The limits and semi-limits are not as impactful. Literally the biggest thing here is literally that these two just absolutely put a huge dent in Splight, which I get. I mean, it's been having 55 to 60% of representation over the last couple months. So, yeah. Then we move to Unlimits. A lot of stuff here. Harp Horror gets unlimited. Harmo gets unlimited. Night Assailant. Night Assailant makes sense. Thunder Dragon Roar. Thunder Dragon Roar. Lone Fire Blossom. Okay. Trishula. Wind-Up Carriers and Mighty, The Beginning of the End, Raigeki, Divine Wind of Mist Valley, and Sword Soul Emergence. As far as these go, I don't think a ton of these are going to be very impactful. Sword Soul Emergence is interesting just because this is a really recent, competitive deck that they hit it with consistency by hitting Emergence, and now they just get that consistency back with Emergence to 3. Harpor could be something. We talk about Orcus, and Harpor is the best Orcus monster straight up. It's normal summonable, so it plus any extender, period, gets you into a play. So definitely interesting to note there. I still think Orcus probably ends up being too fragile, but who knows? Maybe there's some randomness in terms of just new cards that have come out since Orcus has been axed on the list that maybe allows it to extend a little bit better, set up higher ceiling plays. We'll see. But they're still a cool engine. I'd be curious to see what they could do with the Harpor. Harmo, we've had Harmo at 3, but for the OCG, they've been scared of Pendulums, which is understandable. It's a very scary deck. Fine, that's a nice tool for them. Night Assailant, whatever. Dragon Roar is cool, but I still don't think they have Colossus, right? And until they have Colossus, it does not matter what Thunder Dragon cards they have, unless another Thunder archetype comes out that's insane. Not Splice because they need level 2s, but something else. Lone Fire, it's cool for them. That helps some of their plant decks for sure. So yeah, that's cool. Trishula, not a big deal. I don't think it's going to come up too much to hand rip. Zen Mighty, cool for windups. I've heard some small whispers that windups actually might be closer to being playable than we think, but they're a crazy combo deck that wants to loop a bunch of times, so just keep an eye on that. Beginning of the End, a crazy draw card, but this card I believe got banned for Thunder Dragon reasons, right? Just because you have to have a certain number of darks engrave or something, and Thunder Dragons are really good at just getting a ton of darks. I'd be curious about if you play the zombie guy and the chaotic dragon, if that is enough to facilitate this card really easily. I don't know. Raigeki to 3, this card should have been a 3 for a long time. I'm not sure what Divine Wind of Mist Valley does, so we'll skip that one, and then obviously Emergence. So very cool. Really nice to see. We always wonder this, especially in the TCG, but the OCG is a little bit different. Whenever we have something like this and a tier 0 deck, I think Splite has certifiably, and justifiably been called a tier 0 deck, comes out of the woodwork and just absolutely wrecks booty hole out the gate. You're man, if they don't hit it on this ban list, we've already dealt with it for 2 months. Are we really going to have to deal with it for another 3 months after this? And it sucks when you do. And I'm glad Konami did something about it. I think this does fare up Splite quite a bit. I think they'll still have other options. Absolutely. That's the one thing I want to make very clear. I absolutely still think that Splites will have some pretty solid options. And I don't think they're dead by any means, but I do think this takes them, I think this will cut them way down in terms of competitive viability. That's for sure. They won't be tier 0 anymore. They'll probably they might still be tier 1. I really need to see where people pivot. Maybe they go to a live twin version. I think that's quite likely. But yeah, we'll have to see for sure. But yeah, that's it for me here. The last thing I want to mention is Tierlaments. Tierlaments just got really good support revealed for the next core set. It's not out for them yet. They have to wait another month, just over a month for the whole set to be released. But that deck will almost assuredly be the best deck in the game. It looks extremely scary because it was already getting 20% of top cuts on the side of Splite getting 55 to 60. And now Splite's taking a huge power hit. So now Splite comes down. I think Tierlaments escalates. And that deck seems really, really strong. If it gets rolling, you just can't beat it. It's one of those kinds of decks. So, but it is very graveyard-centric. So there are things that just blow it out for sure. So keep that in mind. But definitely Tierlaments are the scary deck on the horizon. We'll have to see where they go because outside of technically branded opening and branded fusion, which I had seen multiple versions that were not playing the branded engine at all. I think the pure version or the light or the Earth Fairy version could be something really, really scary to see. But we'll see. Obviously, we'll keep an update on that. But that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, let me know in the comment section down below how you think this could affect our ban list down the line. I mean, not affect, but implications towards our ban list when we get it in a couple months here. we'll barely have splites, I think, by the time we get a ban list, if at all. So that's kind of timing-wise going to be weird. We're probably going to have an entire 3 months-ish with Splite to see how they wreck our asses. But yeah, really, really cool. Let me know your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear those, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.